This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. Let's get started. Welcome back to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia. This is the countdown to Bond 25. Thanks so much for tuning in. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. My friends, we have reached the end of the countdown to Bond 25 because today we're talking about Bond 24. That's right, it's Spectre, the movie that hit theaters in November of the year of our Lord 2015. Spectre was the last James Bond movie to come out until now, until tomorrow, in fact. At least where I live. The UK got it early because it's the UK and it's Bond. Makes sense. Spectre was a big deal for me because I love the organization of Spectre. I love Ernst Stavro Blofeld, and I was really excited to see them come back to modern James Bond and figure out how they would make that work. Did they make it work? Well, depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer. The plot of Spectre just involves Spectre doing some bad things and James comes across them. But then we find out Spectre has more connections to James Bond than we had originally thought. And I'll leave it at that. The title song for Spectre was performed by Sam Smith, and it is called The Writings on the Wall. And when I first heard The Writings on the Wall, I was not crazy about it. I found it was a little bit too slow. The song has grown on me since. I do enjoy it now, but there's something about that song that's missing. It's missing like a big sort of climax. I don't think it has that. It's a very anticlimactic song. It just kind of finds its slow pace and then it stays there. I do enjoy how these opening credits really use the octopus motif of Spectre and they make it very frightening. I have never been afraid of octopi, but after this credit sequence, I'm a little bit more afraid of octopi. Just imagine walking into a room and seeing that hovering over everything. Horrifying. The gadgets in Spectre range from classic to callbacks to just plain bizarre. Our classic gadget is a watch that also has a bomb in it. That is pure James Bond. James Bond's watches always do neat things. The callback would be an Aston Martin, except this time it's not a DB5, it's a DB10. It's a modern Aston Martin. And as nice as modern Aston Martins are, modern cars just don't do it for me. There is no world where I will be more impressed with a modern car than I would be with a classic car. It's just not happening. Then you have bizarre gadgets like Smart Blood. Q injects Bond with Smart Blood nanobots in his bloodstream so that they can track him and they'll never have to worry about a bad guy taking out his tracking chip like Le Chiffre did in Casino Royale. That's a little bit too modern for me. I'll just stick with my watch and my classic car. Thank you very much. Speaking of classic cars, as nice as the DB10 is and as beautiful as the DB5 is, which we also get in this movie, the film throws us for a loop when it introduces us to the drop-dead, stunning 1948 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith. I cannot believe my eyes every time this car is on screen. And I look at modern Rolls Royces and I'm just like, where did we go wrong as a society? If I had to choose between the DB5 and the Rolls Royce Silver Wraith, don't make me choose. I think I would choose the DB5 just because it's the most classic of the two. But my God, this Wraith, why are cars not as beautiful as this anymore? Somebody please explain to me why this is no longer the case. The first lady Bond meets is Lucia Sciarra, played by Monica Bellucci. And what's great about this is that Monica Bellucci was 50 years old when she played the part, which makes her the oldest Bond lady ever. Age is just a number because Monica Bellucci is just as beautiful at 50 as she was at 20. Monica Bellucci is stunning. We Italians, we age pretty well sometimes. The leading lady of Spectre is a very special one for a very special reason. It is Léa Seydoux' character, Dr. Madeleine Swann. First of all, Madeleine Swann is just a great name for a Bond lady. And Madeleine Swann ends up being a great Bond lady for the most part. I have one issue with Madeleine, and it's that by the end of the movie, not even by the end of the movie, by like the beginning of the third act, she is telling Bond that she loves him. And I don't think that romance has been earned. The romance with Vesper, yes, because a lot of time passes. This one, I don't think they earned it. And it's strange because this is the longest James Bond movie. You think if any of them would have had the time them to flesh these things out, it would be Spectre. But no, we really don't get the sense that it's believable for these two to fall in love. And I think that that's one of Spectre's shortcomings at the end of the day. However, I'm going to give this point to Madeline Swan because she is about to break a record. She is about to become the first leading lady in the Bond franchise to come back and be a leading lady a second time. At least as far as I know. Because she is in No Time to Die. For all I know, she dies in the first 5 minutes. Maybe. I hope not. But from the looks of things, Madeline Swan is along for the ride again. And that makes her ultra mega uber special. So let's put an extra point there too. You get 2 points, Madeline. You're all right. Spectre is swimming in villains and henchmen. In fact, we get our first and so far only classic Bond henchman in the Daniel Craig era. We get Mr. Hinks, played by Dave Bautista. And even though they're not saying that this is pretty much a remake of Odd Job, it's pretty much a remake of Odd Job. Mr. Hinks is just this hulking, silent beast of a man who's got these silver press-on nails on his thumbs, and he pokes people's eyes out, and then he daintily wipes the blood off his thumbs with a handkerchief, and he and Bond have a great fight on the train, and they're not saying that it's a remake of the fight from Russia with Love, but it's a remake of the fight from Russia with Love. Andrew Scott also shows up to play a villain. This guy does play great villains, and he plays Max Denby, also known as C, government agent who was trying to shut down MI6 and create a new modern world of surveillance and drones. And we know right away he's a bad guy because bad guys love their drones. And he ends up also being an agent of Spectre because Spectre has tentacles everywhere. Max Denby is one of those tentacles. God, I hate drones. They're so boring. Stop using drones, screenwriters. Just forget they even exist. They are boring. They suck. Forget the drones. Take drones and take zombies while you're at it and just forget it. Move on. Just move on with your life. But we all know who we're really here to see, because when you have a movie called Spectre, you know right away you are probably getting the great Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And yes, that's exactly what you're getting. Back for the first time since 1971. Ernst Stavro Blofeld is our primary villain, and yes, he is played by the man who was born to play a Bond villain, Christoph Waltz. Now, this is where Spectre tends to be divisive. I'm not going to spoil the twist of Spectre, even though this movie is already over 5 years old already. Holy crap! I'm not going to spoil the twist, but I will say, yes, they did the Austin Powers thing. And I don't know why, when you have a giant blockbuster of this proportion and so many people working on it and so many people with eyes on it, so many creative masters of their fields handling this motion picture, I don't understand why at no point in that process did anybody hold up their hand and say, guys, you know this is exactly the plot of Austin Powers 3, right? And because of that, we ended up with a twist that made people laugh. A twist that I am sure they were hoping would elicit gasps, instead had everybody in my theater laughing when it happened, because everybody was thinking the same thing. They did the Austin Powers thing. So yeah, this is dumb. This did not need to happen. And I think that the problem with Spectre, the reason why so many people didn't like Spectre, was because Blofeld's introduction into this world created a sense of connectedness, a sense of Marvel Cinematic Universe level connectedness with these 4 Daniel Craig movies. But they're not great at that. And I applaud them for trying, because I think it's really, really cool to see connective tissue in my Bond movies. But they could have tried much harder. And what we end up with is a twist that not only makes this movie look stupid, but it makes the other movies feel a little less special in retrospect. I don't like the fact that he says, you know, Silva was working for me the whole time, and so was LeChaffre, and so was Dominic Green. It really diminishes Silva. It really diminishes all those people and what they were doing. Yes, Quantum was working with Spectre. Quantum was one of the tentacles of Spectre. That makes perfect sense. But the Silva thing does not. Silva was a crazy man who was just sort of doing his own thing. And if he had connections to Spectre, there's a way they could have made that work, and they didn't take that way. They just took the easy way out, and they went with something really ridiculous just for the sake of trying to really make that octopus look like its tentacles had a lot of reach. Now, having said that, in my personal opinion, despite the stupidity of a lot of that stuff, the way they set up Blofeld was magnificent. That boardroom where we see Spectre meeting up and everybody's evil and they meet at midnight under the full moon in a glorious big place in Rome, and then Blofeld himself shows up and comes to the head of the table and everybody is silent and they stand up. It is a beautiful way to introduce the villain of villains, the all-time absolute antagonist of the longest-running movie franchise in cinematic history. That's how you do it. Dumb twist notwithstanding, they brought Blofeld into this world beautifully. Does Blofeld have a death trap in Spectre? Well, you bet your ass he does. He's Ernst Stavro Blofeld. He's not going to not have death traps. And what he's got is this drill chair. It's a chair that you sit in, and it's got drills, and they drill into James Bond's head and brain and teeth and stuff. I like this trap because of how frightening it is. Like, it's just eliciting pure, unadulterated pain. The problem with the drill chair, and it's a problem that permeates the movie throughout the third act, is that James Bond is a little bit too unfazed by anything. He gets drilled into the tooth and he gets drilled into the brain, and then he's fine. There are no consequences to the drilling. And this carries on later in the film because Bond has a sack pulled over his head and he's handcuffed, and somehow he manages to knock out the two guys who have captured him and then just remove the handcuffs using nothing but brute strength. And I'm like, okay, movie, you've gone a step too far now. And that's Spectre's problem in a nutshell, is it takes these steps too far in the wrong direction, and it's trying to correct itself within its own movie, and it ends up really feeling messy and jagged. The best quote is still a lot of fun, though. This time it's Q who delivers it. Bond is not supposed to be going out in the field because M has grounded him, but Bond needs to go figure out what Blofeld's deal is. So he tells Q, listen, I know I have this smart blood in my body, but can you just look the other way while I go travel somewhere? Because I really got to figure this thing out. And Q finally acquiesces. And as Bond is leaving, he tells Q, I'll send you a postcard. And a smiling, very nervous Q simply replies, please don't. From the glorious Dia de los Muertos tracking shot that opens the film to the dark and brooding climax at the husk of the old ruined MI6, Spectre takes us for a wild ride. Like I said, it is the longest Bond film, so there's a lot of ride here to be ridden. And the experience of how I felt about Spectre is as jagged as some of the mistakes the movie itself makes. First time I watched this movie, I walked out of it thinking, that was really dumb. That's the dumbest Bond film I've seen in a long time. Then I went to see it a second time with my dad, and I saw how happy my dad was with it and how much he had enjoyed it. I stopped and I thought, you know, this is fun. It's got a lot of dumb moments, but it's better than I gave it credit for. And I think now it has aged well. Maybe it's because we're farther away from Austin Powers and Goldmember than we were back in 2015. So maybe the dumbness of the twist and the silliness of some of the weirder moments and some of James Bond's superhuman moments have just aged better with time. But there was a point where I looked at Spectre as a really dumb movie and I would have flat out said it was a bad movie. Now, I won't be so harsh. I think I would still say Spectre is my least favorite of the four Craigs, but I still have smiles for miles when I watch it. Because it's Bond, it's Spectre, it's Dave Bautista with press-on nails, it's Ernst Stavro Blofeld in a shadowy meeting where you don't see his face, and he's got a white cat. It ticks all of my happy boxes. And I'm trademarking that quote right now. So that's it. That is every James Bond movie. We have done it. We have reached the end. No Time to Die is upon us. And now I can't wait to see what it offers and how it ends this saga. And more importantly, it's already making me ask the question, where does James Bond go from here? The Craig era has been so different and it shook things up so much. I can't help but wonder, what is a post-Daniel Craig James Bond movie? What does it look like? Do they reboot again? Do they just try to continue this story as if nothing happened the way the older ones used to do? Or is there a third unknown option that none of us are thinking of yet? Everybody's so preoccupied with who's going to play Bond, but I'm sitting here more mulling over the dilemma of what is a Bond movie going to be? And I don't think even the producers know yet, but I just hope that they take their time and make sure that whatever it is a good thing. And as far as I'm concerned, as a Bond lover, even a day spent watching the worst Bond is better than a day spent not watching Bond at all. Now, I couldn't have done this countdown to Bond 25 without a lot of help and a lot of research. Yes, I have watched these movies a bunch, so a lot of it is in my brain, but sometimes you need to look stuff up. And now normal people do it on Wikipedia, but I'm not a normal person, so I like sources like this. This has been my best friend over the past 2 months. This is the James Bond Updated Encyclopedia. It came out in 2012, so it's updated for Skyfall. It doesn't have Spectre in it. But this helped me through a bunch of this process because it is the most, I'm going to see if I can hold this without knocking it over because it is a heavy book, but it is the most in-depth James Bond book you could ask for. It has so much, ooh, there's Cigar Girl. It has so much going for it. The detail that it goes into is astonishing. You will never not find what you're looking for in this James Bond book. Now, I don't know if they've come out with another one for Spectre, and now I don't know if they've come out with a final one that has No Time to Die in it. I don't know if I would pick it up just for those 2 extra movies because these are not cheap books. I think this is like a $60 book. This has been invaluable, so I have to thank this for helping me out. And I also have to thank all of you fine people for sticking with me for 24 days as we counted down to Bond 25. This is a special film for me. It's the first Bond film I'll be seeing since the passing of my dad, who was a big Bond fanatic. And it's really going to be a bittersweet moment sitting in that theater and getting to see No Time to Die, knowing it's the first Bond film without Dad there to watch it with me. But having you all along for the ride has really helped, and I can't thank you enough for joining me on this mission. And once I've seen No Time to Die, and once I figure out what I want to say about it and make that video, you can join me right back here, and we can all talk about it together and see what we liked and what we didn't like. Hopefully there's a lot less of the second thing, and we can bask in the glory that is the end of the, in my opinion, greatest era of this already great franchise. So thank you all one last time, and don't forget the 2 things I have tried to teach you throughout this entire countdown. The first, never let them see you bleed. The second, always have an exit strategy.